So my wife and I both have upgraded our motorcycles just this past winter, so I thought I would do a quick video and give my thoughts on these two bikes that we upgraded to. So I had I guess it was an 02 Honda Shadow Spirit 750 that I very much enjoyed. I upgraded this past year to a 2004 Suzuki Marauder 1600. If you're at all familiar with this bike, you know it's basically a Kawasaki Vulcan Mean Streak in Suzuki clothing. It was built by Kawasaki and they had some kind of cross-promotional deal. Anyway, it's essentially a Kawasaki Vulcan Mean Streak 1600, badged with a couple of Suzuki differences, but anyway, give you a quick walk around of it here. It's got the Jardine forward controls. It had those when I bought it, thankfully. I had put forward control extensions on my Shadow and they made a huge difference for me, so buying a bike that had these forward controls on it made a big difference for me. It saved me about $700 on this bike. The only other modification the previous owner did is he put Vance & Hines exhaust on it. The bike just sounds amazing. I'll start it here in a second. Otherwise, it's pretty well stock. The only thing I've done to it, when I bought it, it had a sissy bar on it, and I took that off because it just didn't work well with the hard mounting of these saddlebags. I bought these Viking hard leather coated saddlebags for it. They're lockable. I won't do a whole review. There's a ton of reviews online already for these bags, but they're pretty decent bags. They're lined, hard mounted. I had to there was a piece of chrome that went here, and then the sissy bar. With that chrome and sissy bar mount, the bolts that held the saddlebags on were just too long, and they broke on me first time I mounted them. So I did it again with shorter bolts, took off all that chrome molding. Kind of missed that chrome. This bare piece of powder coated fender strut doesn't look all that hot exposed, but from a distance it doesn't look too bad. And actually I kind of like the bagger look without the sissy bar, and I don't ride too up on this bike very often, so it doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me. But I'm so far incredibly happy with this bike. It's very similar to the style of the Shadow with the drag bars. It's obviously got a lot more power. It's a little longer. It's much heavier. It's about 600 pounds, I think. But it's been a great bike. We just returned from a trip, about a week-long trip where we rode about 1,200 miles through Pennsylvania. I've got a bunch of video of that. It'll be posted either before or after this video. I'm not sure. Let me crank this thing up so you can hear it. I'm sure it won't come through well on video. Yeah, pretty happy with the way that bike sounds. One of the complaints I had about the Shadow is it just never sounded good. It had that, I guess, a twin pin cam or something, and even with Vance & Hines exhaust, it just sounded like a garden tractor. So anyway, gotta say I'm just really pleased with this Marauder. Forgive the booms, it's 4th of July and the neighbors are going nuts over there. But yeah, I'm just super pleased with this bike. Fuel injected, water cooled, liquid cooled. Just a great bike. So my wife went from her 2004 Yamaha V-Star 650 to a 2000, a little older, sorry about the booms, 2000 Honda Shadow American Classic Tourer Edition. This is a monstrous bike for her. She's a little gal, but she manages this bike very nicely. The guy that owned it before us just put every chrome accessory on it that you can imagine. The chrome levers, chrome covers on absolutely everything. If I wanted to put more chrome on this bike, I don't know how I would do it. He's got everything, just absolutely everything is chromed on this thing. And it's in really nice shape. He obviously babied it. Put some miles on it, but it runs like a top. It's also got the Vance & Hines true dual exhaust. Not much to do to these things because they come dressed with the factory bags, and these are really nice big bags. Boy, is it a pleasure. This trip that we just did, we'd have never been able to do it had she not had these big saddle bags. Nice backrest, Mustang seat, Mustang touring seat, luggage rack. You know, again, just every chrome doodad you can imagine. Chrome ignition cover, chrome petcock cover, chrome side covers, chrome drive shaft cover. Just every little doodad. Got chrome accents on the tail light and the turn signals. He pulled off the factory. Oh, he's got the chrome wind deflectors. It's got cruising lights on it, really bright. This thing really lights up. That is just really visible. Got the crash bars. He took off the factory windshield that came on the Shadow Tourer and put this little fly screen on. We weren't crazy about the look of it at first, but it's clean and it's easier to manage than that bigger windshield, and it does actually make a little difference, it seems, in the wind that hits the rider. So pretty happy with it. I'll go ahead and fire this one up as well. It's also got a nice sound, although it doesn't quite have that choppy rumble like the Suzuki does. This is a carbureted bike. It's a little cold, I guess I better choke it. Gotta like that dual exhaust though. Pretty sweet. Sounds pretty good. Much better than my Shadow did, that's for sure. So yeah, we really enjoyed riding these. We've had them out quite a bit so far this year, and real happy with both of them for sure. When we ride two up, we ride obviously the Shadow Ace Tourer, which we don't do a lot, but when we do ride two up, we take the wife's bike. It's much more comfortable for the passenger, although, you know, my knees are jammed up pretty high with the standard controls, but it's comfortable. Certainly a different style of riding than my drag bars with these sweeping pullback bars. Very upright seating position, where on the Marauder I'm much more laid back and reaching forward to those drag bars. But yeah, we do find when we want to go out two up on it, which, you know, again, doesn't happen very often. The only other thing it occurred to me as I was talking about the headlights on the Shadow, I'd like to say the headlight on this Marauder is amazing. And that's one of the things Suzuki put their own headlight on this bike. It's not a Kawasaki headlight. But my Shadow 750, I just did not like riding that thing at night. It didn't seem like I could see very well, and it wasn't even the way the headlight was aimed. It was just a weak headlight. This headlight shines incredibly bright, and it's almost somehow the way they've got it contoured, the lens in there, it spreads the beam, and I can see both sides of the road very clearly as well ahead of me. And when I turn on the brights, I might as well be riding during the daylight. So the headlight that Suzuki put on this bike is just amazing. Otherwise, I think it's pretty similar to the headlight, obviously the badging and the rear fender. It's got more of a ducktail rear fender on it than the Mean Street Cab, but I think the tank and everything else is pretty much the same. The tank and the front fender have a bit of a kind of a tiered angle. I don't know if you can see that. That's one of the things that led me to these bags. They have kind of a similar angled stepped angle on the edges, and it seemed to me like it matched pretty nicely. I'd like a little bigger bags, but You know, with this kind of street rod rear end. It doesn't have the long sweeping fender, so the seat's a little farther forward. So I don't with the shorter fender. I just don't have room for real big bags. These are about as big as I think, manage on here. But they work for around town. But anyway, those are our new bikes. I've got a ton of video riding both of these that I'll be putting together from our trip across PA. So if you're interested, look for that. The other comment I've got to make about this bike is these brakes. This bike stops on a dime for a 600-pound bike. It's got these it's got the bigger rims, 18-inch rims, I think. I can't remember, but anyway, it's got these big dual front brakes and some pretty serious rear brakes. They basically put sport bike brakes on this thing. It just got amazing brakes. I just feel so comfortable that I can stop this bike anytime I need to. So that's for sure a huge plus of this bike. And while it's got a pretty significant amount of power, I mean, it's not a Ducati or anything, but it's fast. It's a really fast bike. It's got a ton of torque, low end torque, but it's really manageable power. It's there when you ask for it, but you have to ask for it. They've really built this bike to be able to ride it comfortably and safely, even though it's just a beast of a motorcycle. So anyway, that's it.